right? And I didn't know, but he mentioned it in his talk, but sorry. I invited him to do his first speaking gig at the Birmingham user group, Dynamics user group, and I didn't realize it was his first time, and he absolutely nailed it because he's a natural, but he does make it look easy. And I think that what's really good about his talk is that you don't realize like what's going on inside somebody's head and what they're thinking and how nervous they get. I mean, Chris speaks all the time. I didn't realize he still got nervous for speaking gigs. But yeah, it's just a thought that you don't really know what somebody else is thinking or going through, even though they make it look easy. So I'm not going to make this look easy, I don't suppose. But shall we start? We've got a couple of minutes, maybe. There's people coming in. I'm going to start my timer. Is anybody thinking of speaking at an event when they haven't spoken before? One. One finger. That's a little step forward. I think that's good. Okay. Right, I'm going to make a start. I'm going to try and I've got some demos to do, so I might need to put the mic down occasionally. But right, let's go. Okay, so good morning, everyone. This is my first session of today. I'm doing a session later on as well. But let's talk about Copilot for Sales and our old friend, the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. Just to raise your hand, are you using the app for Outlook at the moment? Cool, you're in the right place, good. Are you using Copilot for Sales at the moment? Fred? Okay, a couple of people. Yeah, I think it's a real step forward, honestly, which is why I put this slide, session together. But firstly, let's thank our sponsors. We couldn't do these types of free events without sponsorship, and you will hear a lot about these guys, but please do go and see them in the expo hall, win some stuff. I've seen some excellent cowboy hats that are going around, things like that. There's massive Lego. But yeah, go and have a chat with them because they do have some good products as well. And that's why they're here, but also to support the community too. How you doing? Right. So my name's Andrew Bibby. I've been working with Dynamics since before it was Dynamics, actually. Back in 2007, I kind of got hooked into it and I've never left. So I've just really been working with Dynamics and Power Platform ever since. I am passionate about successful adoption because I see on every project pretty much the issues with user adoption, and there's lots of ways that we can address that, and I feel like that needs to be a more prominent thing in our community. I also head up the user groups for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform in the UK. If you're interested in going to a user group or even setting up a user group, please come and talk to me. We've got 10 user groups around the UK at the moment. We're adding some more, so there's probably one. I was going to say there's one near you. There isn't one in Scotland yet, so might not be all near you. But yeah, also please do connect with me, particularly afterwards if you've got questions on this. Come along and talk to me, and yeah, happy to show you other stuff, show you demos, but please do connect with me, and yeah, we can chat about this. So, our old friend, the app for Outlook, the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. I've actually never seen it look this good, to be honest. I don't know if anybody else has, but look at this. Next activity, we've got some pictures up here. This is swiped off the Microsoft website, obviously. But that's the thing that we're used to using. And actually, I've used this for years and years, and it's useful. Yeah, it does some stuff. It tracks emails, that sort of thing. So there is some value to it, certainly. So tracking emails and linking them to Dynamics records, we're all familiar with this type of thing. We can track calendar appointments and meetings in there. We can create new records, especially leads and opportunities, and I used to use that all the time for creating new leads when we get inquiries in. So I run a consulting company with my two partners who also run Scottish Summit, so Mark and Ian. And we use Dynamics internally for tracking our sales and tracking everything else. So I've become a bit of a salesperson, sort of accidentally. And then you can also get information about, out of Dynamics whilst you're in Outlook. And the whole point of that is so that you're not switching between Dynamics and Outlook, right? And that's a key point of Copilot for Sales as well. And we have that seamless integration. This is straight off the Microsoft website. I'm not sure how seamless it is, to be honest, but it is in the Outlook desktop, it's in the web version, it's on mobile. You can access it from all of these places, and there is some value to that as well. So that's our old friend. Now I'm going to tell you, the app for Outlook is on its last legs. So if you're committed to it, have a think about Copilot for Sales as a replacement. And I'll actually show you that Microsoft are directing you to Copilot for Sales. But our new friend, with our shiny icon, can do all of that stuff too. Okay, finally, only sort of fairly recently this year, it's been able to do all of those things, right? And it does lots more stuff, and I'll show you some of that today. And it does it not just in Outlook. This is the key thing, right? This is Copilot for Sales in multiple different places. Again, so that you can be in the place that you're doing the work, like in Teams or in Outlook, or even in Word. There's a bit of a not great functionality in Word at the moment, but and you can carry on using data from Dynamics in all of those places in a really more intelligent way. So we're going to talk about some of that. So actually, this is my inbox, and I'm going to do my demos from my real inbox, okay? I know, risky, right? But this is an email that I had. This is actually a real email about a sale that we were working on a few months ago, and this is Copilot for Sales over here. So it appears in the same place. This is the Mac version of Outlook, if you're not familiar. But you can see, actually, it's summarized. This was quite a long email thread. There was probably a dozen emails in this, back and forth, about setting up meetings and things like that. So we've got that summary there. So if I've been on holiday, for example, and I've not, been involved in the email thread, it's a really easy way for me to catch up on what's going on. So that's one of the very minor benefits of using Copilot for Sales. What else can we do? We can create records, contact, accounts, leads, opportunities, and cases from Copilot for Sales. And you can see here, here's an example of we're creating a new contact directly from Outlook into Dynamics. Now, it's not rocket science, but it's fairly straightforward to do. And I would argue a better experience than the Outlook app. We can save emails and meetings to CRM, as you would expect. We can also edit records directly from Outlook. We don't have to open them up in Dynamics. We can go ahead and edit them, and there's some extra special AI magic on top of that, as Scott Hanselman would say, that I'll show you in a moment. And it can now finally replace the Dynamics 365 add-in. Up until recently, I think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, you didn't used to be able to create leads, for example, which is something that we do all the time. And so I had to have both things installed. And if I wanted to create a lead, I had to use the old app. If I wanted to do something a bit extra, I had to use the Copilot for Sales app, which is obviously not very good. I've still got them both installed, actually, come to think of it. And you'll see, you can have them both installed at the same time. There's no overlap between them. You can actually use them both at the same time if you want to, but now there's no need to do that, really, because you can create all of those records from the Outlook app. What else can we do? Now, some of the more sprinkled in AI stuff is obviously things like composing emails, and I'll show you that. I've kind of gone back and forth on this because I use this, I wouldn't say every day, but multiple times per week when I'm working on sales. I was initially a bit skeptical about having Copilot draft some emails for me, but it actually does a pretty good job. And the intention is, right, for all of these features I'll show you in Copilot for Sales, is to save you time. As a salesperson, salespeople hate using CRM. It's just a universal thing. I don't like using my own CRM, and I sell CRM. So anything that you can do to make salespeople's lives easier, save them time in particular, and if they have to write an email and it gets them 75% of the way there, so instead of spending 20 minutes writing an email, they spend 5 minutes, that's time that they can be going off earning money and doing what they love to do, right, and talking to people. And this is just helping them be productive in Outlook, in Teams, in these different places, in ways that they couldn't do before, and also kind of smooth the path of them using CRM. It's the hardest thing in the world to get salespeople to actually use the CRM system in the first place. And these sorts of things can really kind of hook people in. So drafting new email, I'll show you that. And here's an example of drafting with Copilot. So what it's doing is looking through the email trail, understanding actually what you've been talking about, and then drafting a response based on what you tell it to do. Now, just like you're all in the keynote this morning, right? Scott Hanselman saying is that you're the one in control ultimately. If you end up creating crappy emails, then it's a lot to do with the inputs you're giving it, right? But also the thing is that you shouldn't just take it on face value and say, okay, I'm going to click send on that Copilot email and it's all perfectly fine. Obviously, you do need to check what Copilot is saying to an extent and probably edit. It tends to be quite verbose as well, maybe speak in ways that you wouldn't necessarily. There's a few things that we can do about that, but the intention is that you would edit the emails and check them before they got sent. Summarizing email conversations, really sort of basic feature of Copilot for Sales, but again, that's kind of, if you've got those 15 emails that you're trying to catch up on, it can really quickly, in 10 seconds, give you that summary that you can then read and pull out the most sort of pertinent points. And that works really well in my experience, to be honest. It's one of those things that GPTs are very good at. We also have this opportunity summary, and I'll show you that, and that's basically pulling out kind of important information about the opportunities, things to highlight, and then some special stuff where actually, this is in this screenshot here. So in Copilot for Sales, it's telling me, based on the email, actually there might be some stuff we need to update on the opportunity. And in this case, it's saying we've got a different estimated revenue, so maybe a different budget that the customer's been talking about. And it's suggesting I go and update CRM from that information. And I'm going to attempt to show you that in real life. But I think that's one of the most helpful things. And again, it's as a salesperson, I'm not looking through that email, going over to CRM, finding the opportunity, updating the opportunity, going back to Outlook, which could take me 30 seconds. It's straight in there, and I can go and update the opportunity straight from Outlook. So I think I like that. And then the final thing to kind of call out is these partner applications as well. And this is only going to get bigger and bigger. So third parties can write hooks into Copilot for Sales for their products, like DocuSign. If I'm looking at an opportunity summary and I've got the DocuSign connection in there, what it can do is say at the bottom of that summary or somewhere in the summary, we sent them the quote document and the proposal. We sent it to them a week ago and they haven't signed it yet, or they signed it yesterday, or whatever it might be. So just those little tips. And again, that means as a salesperson, I'm not having to switch out of Outlook, go and log into DocuSign, check the status of that contract that we sent them, all of that kind of stuff. So it's about productivity. And there's other suppliers there as well that have these add-ins and like I say, that's only going to be a growth area. So what I would say is all of the things that you see today and the things I'm going to demo, my feeling is that this product's been out for over a year, but it still feels quite version 1, if you see what I mean. And there's the old adage about Microsoft products that they don't start to get really good until version 3. So we've probably got a little way to go. But it's that's the same. You could apply that to pretty much any of the AI products out there, any of the Copilot products out there as well. That they're in their infancy, and I think AI in general it's only going to get better and better and better. So Copilot for Sales is definitely not going away. The app for Outlook will go away at some point. It's not been announced yet, but there is no investment in the app for Outlook. It hasn't changed in, 2 years, 3 years, zero investment. And that's an indicator that Microsoft are not interested in this product anymore. But they are interested in Copilot for Sales. So let's have a look at it now. Let me see. Hopefully I'm on the right screen here. So once again, I'm going to show you my inbox. No risk here at all. So there's some emails that I've been dealing with. There's obviously the email trail. Now this isn't a real interaction. This is one that I've made up with Copilot. But it's to demo you some stuff for you. But you can see that we're in Outlook. I'm going to open up. I've got Dynamics 365. This is the old app for Outlook. And if it will load, if I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, which I am. Okay, so you can see already this is taking a little while. And it's probably not going to be very helpful for me. Yeah, so it's telling me that this email is tracked, which is great. The unknown recipient is in there, and if I want to, I can add the contact here. Now you might be able to see at the top here, it says sell more with your AI-powered Copilot. And it even gives me a button to click which says get sales Copilot. Now this is the investment that Microsoft have in this product. This was the last thing they added to the app for Outlook, right? And the name is wrong because that's the old name. It changed about, I don't know, 9 months ago, 12 months ago. And they still haven't changed it. It's still calling it the Sales Copilot. But what it's doing is, it's telling me directly, don't use this. Use this new shiny Copilot for Sales thing over here. So, I mean, if you need an indication, that's absolutely it. So what I'm going to do is do that and open up Copilot for Sales. Now, I'm going to make this a bit bigger. So this is an email thread that I've been working on already. It's an example opportunity. We're just waiting for everything to load. But I've already put this into Dynamics, right? I've already tracked this email. I've created some contacts. And the first thing you see here is this summary. So this key email info. It's pulling out some important stuff like the calls that we're going to have or that we've had already, the interest and the product interest that's there. I can immediately draft an email here if I want to in response to this email thread. That's one way of doing it. And then you can see here, actually, I've created a lead. Hopefully you can see that at the back. Is this big enough for you? Do you guys want that a bit bigger? A little bit bigger? Okay, let me see if I can do that. Okay. If only I knew how to do that. Okay, this is obviously much bigger than the screen I used. Anybody seen Zoom? Roomy? No? Okay. If you know how to do this, by the way, please do shout. Okay, it doesn't appear I can do that. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, okay. That's a good idea, isn't it? All right, let me give me a second. I'll try and do that. Sorry about that. That's the first time I've connected to this display, and it's obviously super big. A bit better? That's about the best resolution I can do, I think. All good? Okay. All right, so hopefully you can see that a bit better. But yeah, we've got that key email info. I'm going to scroll down. I've already created that lead. I've already tracked the contact and the opportunity. So I created the lead first, and then it's gone into an opportunity. We've also, when I qualified the lead, it created the contact and the account. And then we can also start to look at how we can use Teams. We've got the contact, we've got the lead already. We've got that summary here. And if I want to, I can share that in different ways. So I can copy and paste that out, obviously, because it's normal Copilot stuff, or I can draft an email. But let's say I want to reply to, we've got that summary here, but I've only got one email, so I don't need to summarize it. But what I want to do is reply with Copilot here. So just creating an email, and it's asking me what I want to talk about, okay? And it's even giving me some suggestions. Now, what I'm going to do is actually move that out of the way. I'm going to tell it I want to set up a call. To product. So you give it some pretty basic instructions. And it's going to create the draft for me. Now, actually, like I say, it's pretty long, right? It's giving me this really sort of, would you be interested in a call finally? So this is the type of thing that salespeople do, but you can tell it what you want it to do more specifically if you want to. Now, what it's saying here is, like Scott Hanselman was saying earlier, don't just take the word for it, actually check what the email is, but I can do different things here as well. So at the bottom here, if I'm thinking that actually I know Jennifer already, I'm going to make it shorter, but actually I want to change the tone as well. So let's make it a bit more casual. I can even write a poem. I'm not really sure why I'd ever want to do that. You can see here, this is such a Microsoft demoware product, but okay. So I can see actually what it's written, and if I don't like that change, so that it's changed the tone to be more friendly now, I can even go back to the other ones that I had earlier as well if I want to. And let's say I want to keep that second one, and now it's ready to go. And obviously I can edit that and make changes to it however I want, or I can just send it out. Now, I wouldn't recommend just sending it, but so again, it's that productivity, right? And it's being able to do things in much less time. So you're doing the same things, but it's helping the user do it more quickly. Okay, so I want to go back to this other email thread here, and actually this top, I'm going to pin that just to stop it going away. This top email is very helpfully the customer is saying, wow, actually we love your product so much, we want to give you some more money. And so it's doing that budget recommendation thing. Now it does take a tiny bit of time to kick in, so I'm not sure if it will appear straight away. Nope. So I might give it a second to come up with that recommended update, or there we go. Okay, so like I say, it does take a minute sometimes. So what it's recognizing is that the budget's changed, and I can update the opportunity here. And if I want to go and do that, I click the button. It's going to open the opportunity, essentially, to make it editable, and it's even put the value in there for me. So I don't have to do anything as a seller. So I can just click the button, go and make the updates, and get on with my life. Okay, so there's some pretty cool stuff there, I would say. Helpful things that go far beyond what the Outlook app currently does. But let's go back and actually go back to where we were. And actually, let's talk about some of the other things that we can do that I find really helpful as a seller. This is a lovely screenshot of what you can do with Copilot for Sales in Teams. And this is actually an example of what you can do before a meeting. So before a meeting, it will pop up about 15 minutes before your meeting, and actually it will send you a message in Teams to say, you've got this meeting coming up, here's a summary of it, here's what's currently happening, kind of thing, just to get you up to speed, right? And this is that summary, but shown actually during the call. So I see this on my side, because I've got Copilot for Sales, and it's giving me this summary of kind of where we're at. And Copilot is sort of looking at what's happening with the opportunity, because Copilot for Sales knows that this meeting is about this opportunity, and so it can go and get more information. It can find out who's on the call, what the recent emails were, all that kind of stuff, and give you this summary to keep you up to date. Now, something else that it does, which is kind of, you're starting to see actually where this is going to get more complex, is actually Copilot will listen to what you're talking about. And if let's say the person you're talking to mentions a competitor, it will actually prompt you to say, okay, this is what we know about those competitors and their products. This is how you can counter that type of conversation. And it's just starting to do this, but you can see how this is an area where this kind of more proactive coaching, guiding, particularly for sort of maybe more junior salespeople, it can be really powerful. It knows what BANT is, so budget, authority, needs, and always forget the T, timeliness, thanks. So it has an idea of what salespeople do, and it will start to prompt you in Teams whilst you're on the call. Oh, you haven't talked about the budget yet. Let's nail that down, that type of thing. So some really cool stuff that's going to be coming. Or actually, it's in the product already. I just can't demo it because of my licensing. Now, after the meeting, and this is something I use fairly often, actually, I'll be able to show you this in a second. This is a summary of what happened in the meeting. So you've got the meeting recording, you've got who was speaking at each particular time, what they talked about, the topics that they talked about, and you can do things like pull out competitor references, or maybe that timeliness, we're thinking of buying in the next 3 months, it will pull that out. And you've got the follow-ups here in terms of like who was talking, who was listening, follow-up tasks that it's pulled out. Now this is all done automatically, okay? I won't say it's 100% correct 100% of the time because it's AI, right? But it does a really good job of summarizing a meeting for you, in particular those tasks, in my experience. So rather than spending your meeting, head down writing out notes as a salesperson and remembering to create those notes and those tasks somewhere, save them somewhere, create those tasks in CRM, this is helping me do all of that for me. And for me, this has actually cut down the amount of note-taking and follow-up work that I do on meetings a lot. So I'll show you that in a second. So what else can we do in Copilot? In Teams, so it's got that meeting preparation card that I mentioned there. So this is what's going to pop up in Teams before your meeting, just to remind you what's going on. Like how many times have you scrambled 2 minutes before a meeting to think, oh God, what's this meeting about? Who am I talking to? What's the current situation? This is all about what you need for those things. I appreciate you might not be sellers in the room, but if you have salespeople in your organization, this type of thing is super useful for them if they get used to using it. We've got that Copilot for Sales in a meeting, which is what I was just talking about. So it's prompting and it's giving you that summary of the current situation. Prompting with sales tips, like I talked about. Showing related records, so it can pop up with the contact information of the opportunities that you're working on, things like that. And then that meeting recap, transcription, translation as well, which is a really interesting scenario. And you may be familiar with doing this with Copilot anyway, but as a side benefit, because we're using Copilot, we can have meetings in different languages, in multinational organizations that get transcribed and then translated back into a core language if you want to do that. And then creating those follow-up tasks, which is really straightforward to do. So let me show you that. I'm actually going to show you a meeting that I had recently. So this is my Teams, and that's why you can see all of this stuff going on here. But what I want to do is, this is actually Copilot for Sales in Teams, and it's got that. So after my meeting, it's going to pop up and say, this is the summary of the meeting. But actually what I want to do is just filter out all of that stuff, just to focus in on a meeting that I had recently. And again, this pops up automatically. I don't have to remember to go and do this or look at this. And I can just jump into the recap of the meeting. Now, it's helpfully opened that on the wrong window. So let me open that over here. Now, for some reason, the meeting itself, I could rewatch the meeting from here, but for some reason it's not loading. But you can see here, this is a meeting I had recently with a customer. It's who's talking each time, what sort of topics did we talk about? So we've got some topics here that's just pulled out. There's probably all kinds of chit chat, at the start of the meeting that we maybe don't want to be talking about so much. But I can go over here. I'm not sure if it's going to pull out the chapters because that video is not loading. But if I go over to sales, and hopefully it'll load. So post-meeting actions, draft a summary email to the meeting participants. So it's offering to do that for me. And that's to summarize the meeting. I've used this with customers, super helpful. So I don't have to write up all of those meeting notes, type them up. I still use paper and pen for my meeting notes. It's got some suggested follow-ups here. And I can go ahead and just create a task for that, and that will create the task in CRM. And I can go ahead and that will create the task associated with that opportunity, and I can put that information in there. I can assign it to somebody. And I can even give a very small description. I'm not sure why that's so small. But yeah, that's some useful functionality, right? So it's just helping me do all the follow-ups that I said I would do. Any questions that came out of the meeting, those participant statistics, you can see my talk to listen ratios, maybe I need to talk a little bit less and listen a little bit more. Switches of conversation, things like that. So it gives this kind of analysis, and it's even got these keywords that were mentioned, in the meeting itself as well. So the useful part of it is all about, for me, these follow-up tasks and not having to take loads of notes myself. So I think that's a really useful feature. And it's it's using Copilot, it's using Stream, it's using all of those Copilot features behind the scenes to bring that into a place that's useful for salespeople, right? So I feel that's something that helps me as a seller, and that's probably one of the biggest kind of benefits for Copilot for Sales for me. So if you're not using that already, I would say give that a go and give that to some salespeople and see how they like it. Now the final sort of area is in Word as well. So I can generate a pre-meeting report in Word. Now this is one of the features I would say, I want to mention it, but I don't personally find this useful, although it is quite cool. But basically when I'm in Word, I can hit Copilot and I can say, generate me a pitch meeting summary, and it will go and look up information straight from Dynamics from Word, and so it will show you a list of the opportunities that you're currently working on. And then it will create this document for you. It may be that your organization needs to send these out, or it needs to, I don't know, store them in Teams or whatever. Maybe you send them out to the customers before the meeting. But it creates this sort of prefabricated meeting preparation document. It's got meeting information, it's got the current opportunity summary, it's got recent emails, it's got the people involved in the meeting, all that kind of stuff. So it's a real good summary document, and then you can straight away save that to Teams. Maybe you're going to save that to the collaboration space in Teams. I would say this is one of the areas that needs the most development. It's a prefabricated report, so it kind of includes what it includes. You can't change it yet. You can't do branding or anything like that. But that's the feedback that Microsoft have had, that actually people want to be able to customize this, and hopefully that's coming soon. Okay, so this is something that I can demo. I'm going to have to demo it on a bit of a pre-canned example. So we're in Outlook, okay? I'm going to schedule a meeting with Copilot. I'm going to, where am I clicking? Can't remember. Okay, yeah, so I sent that meeting out. I'm going to go to Files. No, I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a Word document. And now I'm in Word. Obviously, this is simulated. Now, the reason it's simulated is my licensing doesn't allow me to do this. I'll come on to licensing in a second. But I'm in Word. I'm using Copilot. And you can see it's created that very extensive meeting report there, in with competitor analysis, preparation checklist. So this is useful stuff. Just depends on whether your organization does this type of thing. Okay, and then you can obviously email that out or save it to Teams or whatever you need to do. Okay, so that's kind of the highlights of what you can do with the current Copilot for Sales. It is a product that is changing quickly. New features being added all the time. There's monthly releases for it, at least at the moment. And so I'll show you how to sort of keep up with those when we start talking about that. But I'll give you the Microsoft spiel. Microsoft Copilot for Sales is an AI assistant designed for sellers to maximize productivity and close more deals. I agree with that, right? Because if you're maximizing productivity, hopefully you're doing more useful work elsewhere, and hopefully you're closing more deals as a result. Now there's a cost to this product, or at least the more premium features, which I'll talk about in a second. But ultimately, if you can justify the cost in more deals, it's an absolute no-brainer to give this to salespeople, in my view. It also works with Salesforce. So if you have Salesforce in your organization, or you're using both, I've worked with some organizations that use both, like very big companies. It works with Salesforce as well. There was some talk about making it work with other CRM products. I think that they said about that about a year ago, and nothing's happened since. So I wouldn't hold your breath about HubSpot or anything else, but it works with those. It's surfaced in Outlook, Teams, and Word, i.e., outside of Dynamics. So it's all about bringing that information into where the seller is working. Now, there is Copilot in Dynamics as well. Copilot, Dynamics 365, Copilot for Sales, which is really helpful. But anyway, that's inside Dynamics. This is all stuff that's working outside of Dynamics, and they are separate products. Now, AI features are available in 10 languages. If that is important for your organization, you can talk to this in French or Italian or whatever. And all of those features that we just talked about still work. And it is GA worldwide, except for some places that you maybe don't want to go to anyway, like Iran or North Korea, things like that. But that's less about the product, it's more about, you know, international treaties and stuff like that. But the key point, I think, is that the app for Outlook is useful, okay? It has value. I've used it for years and years. But Copilot for Sales takes that a big step further. And you've probably heard about the agentification of Copilots that's coming. And that's really about those interactions with Copilot being more of a conversation, more of a proactive prompting to do things. This is absolutely where this product is going. So it will be more and more of an assistant to your salespeople as it goes through its life cycle. But I still think there is some very useful very useful functionality in the product at the moment. Okay, right. Have I sold you on it? Let me try and explain the licensing situation. Okay, I've summarized it. It is in the Dynamics licensing guide. I'm going to summarize it, right? So there is actually a free version of Dynamics, a free version of the product in Dynamics that you get with these products. So if you've got Sales Enterprise, which most people do, or if you've got Premium, a lot of the features that I've just shown you, you will have. You can start using it straight away. You can roll it out maybe to a pilot group and start using it straight away. What you get with the Premium version that you do pay for is better language models, some additional functionality, particularly on those kind of prompting aspects. It uses the newer 4.0 LLM and things like that. And the Premium features are only going to get better and better. But right now, you can replace the Dynamics app for Outlook with Copilot for Sales for zero cost if you have these licenses. It doesn't come with a professional license. But in summary, $50 a month. That also includes the Microsoft 365 Copilot. So that's $50 a month per user. You only have to buy it for the users that you want to give it to. So if you've got 100 users and you want to pilot it with 10 users, you absolutely can do that. If you already have the Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can switch it on for an extra 20 a month. And if you already have Sales Premium, you can get that premium version for an extra $30 a month. I've really tried to simplify this for you, but there is an FAQ if you are, have more questions, and there's quite a long FAQ as well. So I encourage you to give that a read, and I'll share these slides afterwards. How do you get it? Basically, there's two ways. A user can install it themselves, but I wouldn't recommend that way because it's a bit like, you don't know who's using it. But you can deploy it just as a normal Office 365 or Microsoft 365 app. Okay, so you install it from the integrated app area in the admin center, and then you basically push it out to users. And you can share it with a security group or individual users and push it out that way. They do need to have that license, so you need to assign the licenses as well. Then you need to set up the Teams policy, and that means that your meetings are going to be recorded by default. So these are a key point, actually. For the Teams functionality, you need to be recording your meetings, okay? And that the transcription is off the back of the recording. So that is what I've experienced is for some customers, that's a bit of a culture shift, and people maybe push back on that a little bit, so that's something to watch for. You also do need to make sure that your users have the right security roles in Dynamics as well. And there is the setup for the product itself, where you want to customize the product. You have to go through that as well. But it's pretty straightforward. And that link will take you through all of those steps and a lot more kind of information that you need to know. Okay, would you like to know more? Anybody get the Starship Troopers reference? Which I try to fit into every talk that I do. One thing that's come out quite recently is the Copilot for Sales Success Kit. So you may know that there is adoption.microsoft.com. That is a website all about adoption of all Microsoft products, or some of them anyway. There is a Copilot for Sales version of that, which gives you loads of information about how to roll it out to your users, what the product does, how to communicate, how do you get that adoption in the first place. There's some great documentation, actually. So Docs has a really rich set of documentation for the product. A couple of tips from me. If you want to keep up to date with actually what's changing in the product, the Microsoft Copilot for Sales blog has those updates, and it's monthly, like I say. They're pushing out changes and new features all the time, so keep an eye on that. blog. And then finally, Amira Bel-Jalali is somebody who works at Microsoft in the Fast Track team, I think I'm going to say, and she has this excellent tip time PowerPoint deck, which I'll show you in a second if I've got a minute. And that has absolutely top to bottom every single feature that's in Copilot for Sales and how to use it. Let me try and show you that for a sec. It's a super useful resource. So here's the tip time. It's 120 slides, right? There is tons and tons of information here. So there we go. So it's like, how do you create an AI generated summary? How do you search for records? How do you save an email? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for different personas as well. And so this is talking you through all of that in very great detail. So I really advise you to take a look at that. It's a great resource if you're rolling this out to many more people. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
Will it be more branded to sales? Is it just the out-of-the-box entities you can save the records to, or can you bring your own custom entities?
Good question. So the question was, can we use it with custom entities, custom tables? I'm going to say you can, because when you configure Copilot for Sales, you have to go in and say which things do you want to connect it to, like opportunities or leads. So lead isn't switched on out of the box. You have to go and set it up. And then during that process, you can select the table if you want to do that. And then you select the fields that show in Outlook and things like that. So yeah, I'm going to say yes. I've not tried it though, to be perfectly honest, but it's a good question. Dan?
Do you have any advice, more of a change management? You mentioned having Teams on by default to record calls. That's quite a behavioural, cultural shift for people. Have you got any advice on how to broach that subject with customers?
I would definitely take a look at that success kit for more kind of advice. So the question is, how do you convince people that recording meetings is a good idea? Particularly salespeople. The pushback I've seen is that salespeople say that actually my customers or my potential customers, they won't want to talk about certain things because they feel like, they might not be quite so open. It's a cultural thing, ultimately. Like, literally every conversation is going to be recorded in 2 years' time. Recording will be on by default. People will get used to it. It's like working remotely, right? It's a big cultural shift. I would say, in terms of advice, show them the benefits. And I think over time, those barriers to people not talking about things, they'll come down because people will get used to the technology. But there's always people that are less comfortable and some people that are more comfortable. Like, I'm working with a customer at the moment that I showed you that recap. They're super forward thinking. They record all their meetings. We're building custom Copilots, and they've got lots of very kind of forward thinking people, but equally, I talk to people and they're very reluctant to start recording meetings. But you don't get the benefits ultimately, and if you can show them that recap stuff and how much time it can save them, then I think it makes at least some people think twice. So we are out of time. I will wrap up, but please do come and chat to me afterwards. I'm here today and tomorrow. If you've got any more questions, also please leave feedback in the app. That would be super helpful for me and for the organisers as well. And like I say, connect with me if you would like to, if you want to chat about this or anything else. Thank you very much.